Hey everybody, this is James Hernandez. How's everybody doing? And welcome back to a brand new episode of Characters Face Off. This is Characters Face Off episode 23. And for this episode, it's going to be a battle between two video game boxers. And that is Little Mac from Punch-Out versus Balrog from Street Fighter. So without further ado, let's get the boxing matchup started by starting the analysis. So let's start with Little Mac. So standing at 5'7" feet tall and weight up to 107 pounds, Little Mac is the main protagonist of the Punch-Out franchise. He is an underdog boxer from the Bronx trained by Doc Lewis, raises to become the champion of the World Video Boxing Association. But before he was discovered by Doc Lewis, he was rejected by many trainers due to him being a small stature, of him being a small boxer. So then Doc Lewis decided to take Mac to pursue his dream of becoming a champion, fighting his way the ranks against a much larger opponents, and that's where we see the Little Mac that we all know today. So now let's talk about his powers and abilities. Now, Little Mac has many boxing techniques since he's technically, well, a boxer. So the first technique that he has is a rapid hook, which is a powerful punch that is thrown in the Siamese prodigals and arching the motion using a bent arm that is roughly like 90 degrees at the elbow, which is like so powerful and so painful that his technique is actually much powerful and much stronger. It was strong enough to like break your elbows, which is ridiculous. Now the second technique he has is a jab, which is a fast frame one move that can be used in two ways, like a rapid jab for the get off me situations and the high damage or the 3-hit combo for more controlled setups and advantages situations. Now the third technique he has is the uppercut, which it generates power through the hip and the core radiation. And Little Mac's KO uppercut is so powerful that he can actually knock his opponents at low pretensions when activated, especially on the ground. Now the fourth technique he has is the most powerful one, called the star punch. The star punch is the most powerful uppercut that Little Mac has ever used in his boxing career, which can be charged with up to 3 stars, in which each of the stars that are adding more damage, which, yeah, that is incredibly powerful and so strong for a boxer like Little Mac. Now the fifth technique he has is the straight lunge, which has been conditionally one of the most powerful special attacks that Little Mac has ever used when he was in Super Smash Bros. 4 as well as Ultimate. Now the sixth technique is the jolt haymaker, which Little Mac can leap and throw downward punches, and it's very impressive for him. The seventh technique that he has is the rising uppercut, which is strong and powerful enough to send his opponents in the air for a fence. The eighth technique is the slip counter. It is extremely useful move and one of the few defensive move that Little Mac has ever used, giving him a powerful offspring punch to interrupt attacks. And now for his speed. His speed is very extremely fast, as he can run up to 2,464 miles per hour. So that's pretty fast, even though that Little Mac is still a human, but he actually has a lot of stamina when he was being really active, thanks to Doc Lewis, who has been training him to become a professional boxer. Now as for his durability, Little Mac has taken hits and blows from his opponents like Mr. Sandman, who is strong enough to destroy a building, and Ryan, who used his boxing glove, using his boxing glove mace, they believe that was called. Now when it comes to his professional feats, Little Mac has become a boxing champion several times, punched sandbag through the second-story window, he gets up at the count after being knocked out, defeated Mike Tyson, who was one of the most powerful boxers in the world. He also defeated Super Macho Man, Donkey Kong, and Sandman. He was even strong enough to knock out Bull with a star punch, tough enough to take punches from his opponents. He was fast enough to dodge swings from like Aaron Ryan's rope attack, and Disco Kid's Disco Flurry, and even outrun Piston Honda. But as for his weaknesses, Little Mac can only take so much punishment before he goes down, getting hit results and loss of all of his star punches. He rallies on his speed over power, and he's basically not as good in the air as he is on the ground. And he basically has like no projectiles or even a long range options, and he's also still human despite how powerful that he really is as a boxer with all these star punches and techniques and stuff. But overall, Little Mac is a great skilled boxer, and he's a great boxing champion with excellent boxing skills. Although he is human, and he can actually get overpowered if he actually uses his speed rather than power. From one boxer to another, now let's talk about Balrog. Standing at 6 feet tall and weigh up to 298 pounds, Balrog is the character from the Street Fighter franchise. Born in the poor neighborhood, Balrog began to learn boxing under his natural gift of beating up people. Thought this made him so motivated by victory that he was willing to discord fairness and resort to dirty tactics, and just to gain an advantage over his opponents. Eventually, this had him being recruited by Shadowloo as a chief enforcer by M. Bison. Throughout his career, Balrog has had a variety of enemies over the years, especially against Dooley. However, when Bison disappears, Balrog actually took the organization, and he eventually wasted its resources on lavish and gambling. And that's where Balrog actually became one of the most powerful boxers in the Street Fighter universe. But now it's time to talk about his powers and abilities. Now, Balrog is a very skilled in boxing, just like Little Mac, with his own techniques. The first technique that Balrog has is the turn punch, which is Balrog's special attacks as he twists away from his opponents for a brief moment just before spinning and delivering a devastating downstream hook, complete with the accompaniment of Rush and the wind background sound effect. His second technique is the dash straight, where Balrog dashes forward and delivers a straight punch, which is very impressive for him. The third technique he has is the dash upper, which it combines a rapid short forward movement, and it was upward punch, aka an uppercut, which was used to a close corner combat. The distance to the opponent to land the strike, which is very, very, very powerful. Now, the fourth technique is the buffalo headbutt. Now, these techniques that Balrog has in boxing is basically illegal, and the buffalo headbutt is one of them. It's a signature move for Balrog where he actually uses it to knock his opponents out. So he basically will just like grab you, and he basically will just headbutts you, which is very illegal in boxing, but Balrog doesn't really care, like, at all. So Balrog can use his V skill called the KKB, which is can dodge like projectiles as well as string together attacks. He also uses his as stealthily to avoid fireballs, and can be used in rage to deal with some damage to his opponent. As well as his other super moves, he also uses a Gaiten punch, where he unleashes an incredibly powerful charging straight punch, often launching opponents into the air with the vortex of wind, showcasing that his raw boxing strength, and that's very impressive. Now, the other one he has is the Dirty Bull, which Balrog angrily lunges his opponent at the air with a threatening facial attack, attempting to grab his opponent, and performs legal boxing moves. And the other illegal boxing move he does is stomping on someone's foot. And that's what Balrog has been doing just right before he got kicked out and banned from boxing. Like, not just headbutting, but also like stomping on someone's foot, like during the match. And yeah, and just like, and despite being banned from boxing, Balrog doesn't even care, and he basically still continues his boxing career, which is crazy. Now, speaking of crazy, the third technique he has is the Crazy Buffalo, which Balrog can catch jumping in an opponent and then hit them again, and just by using an all-powerful uppercut, which, woo, that's insane. Now for his feats, Balrog has become M. Bison's right-hand man. He was strong enough to flip a car since he is actually a muscular guy. He has killed an elephant with one punch, which the African bush elephant can actually stand up to 13 feet tall, and they weigh up to 13,500 pounds. Survive a 1,272-foot fall, strangled Zangief, defeated Ansel, Manero, and Jumbo Flapjack. But however though, Balrog isn't tough without his weaknesses, because he has struggled against other tanks. He has no projectiles, his fighting style can be so predictable, he was defeated by Doodly and Alex, he is somewhat pretty slow due to his large size, he's basically a violent cheater that actually causes him to attack referees and the cameraman, and that's where he gets banned from boxing in his life. And he also has a really bad temper as being a boxer. But overall, Balrog is a very dangerous boxer and a monster with his illegal boxing skills. Although he does get his career ruined when he basically uses all of those illegal projectiles during boxing, but he is still a very dangerous boxer in the Street Fighter universe. Okay everyone, now that I analyze these two characters, it's time for me to talk about who would win this fight. And this is actually going to be very, very hard, and it's going to be very difficult because both Little Mac and Balrog are very impressive when it comes to their boxing skills. And both of them had really good projectiles when it comes to their own skills in their boxing career. So I basically have like a list of advantages that these two characters have. Now, before I announce the winner of the fight, I got a list of, like I said, the advantages that Little Mac and Balrog has. So technically, Little Mac does have the speed and reflexes advantage, which, Mac is especially quick, which allows him to easily maneuver around his opponents and basically avoid hits. So he will go like left, right, duck, left, right, duck. He's very focused when it comes to like his speed when he fights like other boxers in the Punch-Out series. He also has the super armor advantage as well, as he can smash attacks and have like a super armor allowing him to power through all the enemy's attacks. He also has a knockout punch advantage, which is so powerful, the low structure, and he's also extremely fast in dodging, just like when I mentioned the speed and reflexes. So he could basically like dodge and duck to avoid attacks. Now, as for Balrog, Balrog does have the raw power advantage because he's basically stronger in brute force strength, and he also has a high level of durability as he's been like taking hits from his opponents. And even though I did say that Little Mac is durable, but it seems that Balrog does have more of a durability advantage. And of course, when it comes to size, Balrog is technically much taller and heavier than Little Mac is. And now we have the moveset, which he uses like dirty boxing skills, like Balrog, which is like he would headbutt you and he will stomp on your foot, and he does not care at all. So no matter like how illegal those boxing moves, and despite that he got banned from boxing, he still doesn't care, and he does not, doesn't care at all. Now, yeah, so this is actually much tougher than I thought because, both Little Mac and Balrog are very powerful boxers. So in terms of who do I think is going to win in the fight, I think I'm going to have to go with Little Mac because Little Mac has fought opponents that are larger and stronger than him, and he basically just like took them out, especially when he was able to fight the likes of Mike Tyson in the original Punch-Out game. And Little Mac actually took him out pretty easily, and he's also really fast and really quick at dodging and ducking, while Balrog does have the power advantage, and he somewhat is not as fast as Little Mac because due to his large size, he is somewhat a slow fighter. But not to underestimate Balrog, because Balrog is a very powerful brute force, and he is a monster when it comes to boxing, and you do not want to fight Balrog, because if Balrog chooses you as his opponent, you're probably going to get extremely hurt, and you're probably going to end up in the hospital. But if he actually fought someone like Little Mac, like I can see the scenario where it takes place in boxing. I mean, obviously, because they're boxers and they got to fight in a boxing ring. So I can see like Little Mac sees Balrog, and then he basically thinks that that Balrog reminds Little Mac of like the other boxers that Little Mac has fought in the Punch-Out series. Whereas Balrog would look at Little Mac and he would be like,
Ha 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 ha, that guy is too small. He can't even take the champ. I'm gonna knock him out like a
and all that kind of stuff. So I do think that these two would put up a good fight when it comes to their boxing skills. So I can see that Little Mac will be able to like dodge and duck from Balrog's attacks, and Balrog can actually get so aggressive to Little Mac, and he will do all these like dirty moves like headbutting and stomping on your foot, which just causes the audience to boo. And pretty much Balrog is not going to care about it. So these two are going to continue to fight, and yeah, I think Little Mac will be able to use his intelligence to outsmart Balrog. So, while I do think that this actually could be like a very interesting and very cool boxing fight, I really don't see Balrog winning this. Now, I know many people might think that Balrog would win because of his aggression and his size and strength. But you guys got to understand that size is not always a factor, because just because an opponent is larger than the other opponent doesn't mean that the larger opponent's going to win. There are times like where the other fighters that are smaller and quicker than the other characters might be able to defeat the larger one. So I do think that Little Mac would be able to like use his knockout punch to able to knock out Balrog, and plus like his boxing techniques is pretty much like much more faster and much more reflexer than Balrog is. Now Balrog, like I said, he is very aggressive, and he's also very good with his illegal moves, especially with his uppercut. But Little Mac, he would actually get back up to his feet after getting knocked out, and he would get right back up from the floor, and he would continue to fight, and he would basically would challenge Balrog into a fight, and then Balrog would usually try to hit Little Mac, but then Little Mac will keep like dodging, ducking, back and forth until Little Mac actually gets the opportunity to defeat Balrog in a fight. So yeah. So I think, while I do think that this actually could be like one of the roughest matches in Characters Face-Off history, and while Balrog is actually very strong and he does have the size advantage over Little Mac, but everything that Little Mac has in terms of like speed, reflexes, as well as his techniques in boxing, especially the knockout punch-out stars, will knock out Balrog in a fight, and I do think that Little Mac would eventually win the day. So overall, in the end, looks like Balrog has been outpunched by Little Mac. The winner is Little Mac. So guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys enjoy my channel, please subscribe, hit that like button, and turn on the notifications when I make brand new videos. And stay tuned that I'm going to be working on the next episode of Characters Face Off, which is actually going to be much tougher than I thought when I did the research for the next combatants for the next episode. So stay tuned for that one. And also stay tuned for more videos that I'm going to be working on, like, movie reviews, anime reviews, video game reviews, top 10 lists, and Marvel vs. Transformers chapter videos, and yeah, stuff like that. So, but what did you guys think? What do you guys think would win in a fight? Do you think Little Mac would win, or do you guys think Balrog would win? Let me know in the comments below. And if you guys also have other Characters Face-Off episodes you guys want me to do, also feel free to let me know in the comments below. Other than that, hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Like I said, stay tuned for the next episode, which is actually going to be the most difficult one out of all of them. And yeah, and I think that's all I got to say for today. This is James Hernandez, signing out.
Tonight is the night.